Am I correct that the witnesses that appeared before your committee confirmed that there was no credible explanation for withholding the military aid and that it was, in fact, against our national security interest to do so?
Everyone agreed it was against our national security interest to do so.
Joining us now, former U.S. Ambassador to Russia, Michael McFaul. He's an MSNBC national security analyst. And Ambassador McFaul, I want to get your reaction to the Russian foreign minister meeting tomorrow at the White House in the Oval Office with President Trump. That's his second time. President Zelensky still hasn't gotten that meeting, and Donald Trump apparently may be voted articles of impeachment in committee this week because of his interactions with President Zelensky.
Incredibly shocking, coincidental, but the bottom line is 2 versus 0 that you just pointed out, Lawrence. It is customary, I can tell you, because I served at the White House with President Obama, to have a courtesy call with the foreign minister of Russia in the beginning of a term. It is highly unusual to have a second return of the foreign minister. I think in 8 years of the Obama administration, Foreign Minister Lavrov only visited that once, and it underscores the fact that President Zelensky has yet to have an Oval Office visit with the President of the United States, with the leader of the free world.
Why are they having this meeting tomorrow? What could it possibly be about?
I think it's shocking. I sometimes wonder, what are they thinking? What is Secretary of State Pompeo thinking? He's literally flying from Paris, from the meeting that Mr. President Zelensky and President Putin are at. President Zelensky could easily be flying from Paris to have this meeting, and instead we're going to have the Lavrov readout of the meeting between them. I just think optically it's bad. In terms of the substance, there's nothing big going on in U.S.-Russian relations right now. So I just think it's highly inappropriate. Both the substance and the optics, I think, are bad.
Well, what any other president would be doing would be pushing the Russians around on the way they are dealing with Ukraine and this war that they're conducting with Ukraine. 14,000 Ukrainian casualties already. We know Donald Trump's probably not going to talk about that at all.
Well, that's exactly it. If President Trump stood next to Lavrov and said, I'm glad you guys made progress yesterday, because they did make a little bit of progress today in their meeting, but I urge you to leave Ukraine and protect and leave the sovereignty of Ukraine. We're not going to recognize Crimea. All the obvious talking points that every national security expert I know, Democrat or Republican, agrees to, that would be something worthwhile to do. But my suspicion is that's not the conversation you're going to have between President Trump and Minister Lavrov. I just hope they avoid all the happy talk and giggling and slapping of the backs that they had at the first meeting, especially given what is going on with respect to our relationship with Ukraine right now. That would be highly inappropriate.
Ambassador, I just want you to take a moment to reflect on where we are in history and where we are in the American history with Russia. Here it is, basically a problem that originated with Russia, which is the Russian attack on our election. This has led to what is about to be the impeachment of a president of the United States who became obsessed with trying to shift the blame away from Russia to Ukraine, and at the same time obsessed with trying to get Ukrainian influence in the next election by getting a Ukrainian investigation of Joe Biden announced. The region of the world where you've spent your life and your expertise is now bringing this president to the verge of impeachment.
And all because of what he said and did. What is so amazing about all of this, going back to even 2014, to start when there was real confrontation, when Russia invaded Ukraine and annexed Crimea, and then the 2016 intervention, it would have been so easy for President-elect Trump, or after the inauguration, to say, the Russians meddled in our affairs, and I'm going to make sure it never happens again. And everybody would have rallied to him. I would have rallied to him. I would say that is the appropriate tact. Instead, he has time and time again, against all facts, let's just be clear, there's no facts to support this contention, said that Russia did not meddle in our elections. And then he's taken it a step further to say that Ukraine did. And I honestly, to this day, after many times talking to you for years and years, watching this story, do not understand President Trump's obsession with protecting Putin when I don't think it's even in the president's own personal interests. And as a result of that, he is now going to likely face articles of impeachment tomorrow.
Ambassador Michael McFaul, thank you very much for joining us. Really appreciate it. That is tonight's Last Word. The 11th hour with Brian Williams starts now.
Tonight, as the Democrats promised,